I am Hal McKnight, Chairman. I would like to call our meeting to order. Thank everyone for being present. Everyone, please. I hope everyone has their devices in order. Let's see. First is City Clerk verifies a quorum.
We have quorum, Chairman.
Very good. Well, then we will begin our meeting at this moment. First item is to approve the minutes from the March 2nd, 2020 meeting. May I have a motion for that, please? Oh, it's been moved and by Sandino Thompson and seconded by Don Noble. All in favor, please vote. Motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, we're still waiting for your vote to register. Click your button, please.
Well, boy. I'm sorry, Mickey. I'm trying, but I'm not getting a response, I guess.
Is your device touch screen or is it mouse operated?
It's touchscreen.
Okay, Chairman, if you would like, you can just voice vote on the votes and I will click it for you.
Okay, I vote aye. Next item is items for consideration. I want to remind everyone that if the video conference is disconnected at any time during the meeting shall be stopped and reconvened once the connection is restored. If communications are unable to be restored within 30 minutes, items remaining for consideration will be continued to May 11th at 10 a.m. via teleconference. 3A, street resurfacing projects, status update. Brock?
Good morning. We hope you and your families are staying safe. Thank you for the steps you have taken to join us today. We would also like to thank Mickey for the training she provided us in the Zoom meeting format and Nicole for getting us ready for the meeting. Because of the uncertainty of how effectively we would be able to communicate, we have chosen to forgo the majority of the more detailed updates we commonly try to provide. However, if you have questions, please stop us and we will be happy to provide additional information. With that, I will introduce Brockmeyer to discuss projects in the resurfacing category.
Morning, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. Like Mike had said, because of the different setting, I didn't do my normal show and tell. So for item 3A1, I'll give just a quick status update and I'll keep talking. And if anything, any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to stop me and I'll answer anything. This board has approved 112 arterial projects and it brought the arterial, percentage, the 60% up to around 97% approval. And we have 19 residential projects that have brought us about 88% approval. And so for a total of our total resurfacing, street resurfacing budget, that puts us right around 93%. And there's a few items there today that will bring those up. And so that finishes my item 3A, my status update. And if there's no questions, I'll move on to our next agenda item. And that will be item 3A2, which is recommend a couple of budget revisions. We have A and B. One is an arterial street, and the other is a residential street. On item 3A2A, that is going to be an arterial street. It is Northwest 16th Street, and it is from May to Penn. This particular project was a concrete street that had been overlaid with asphalt, approximately 3 inches overlaid that concrete. And so when we milled down and got to the concrete and were able to evaluate everything, we did notice that some of the concrete had deteriorated and degraded to a portion that we would need to do a lot more full depth base repairs. And so that has cost more money. And then we also ran into 2 blocks from Dillon to Young's, and that area was degraded enough. And we think that, we felt like there were some underlying subgrade issues. And so for that reason, we did a full depth, complete repair in that area. And so therefore it is going to cost a whole lot more money to do those full repairs to that extent. And so that's why we're asking for your approval to recommend the budget revision on this item.
This requires a vote. Can I have a movement on that, please? Motion on that, please. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor say yay. All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Next is 2A, 2B.
Thank you. Yep. And this brings us to our second budget revision. On this one, it is a residential project, and it's PR 2018-19. It's the area bounded by South Santa Fe, Southeast 29th Street, South High, and Southeast 15th Street. In this particular neighborhood, we've got in there and we've noticed that the same thing, there's going to be a lot of additional repairs that are going to be needed, a lot of full depth base repairs. And we think that there's a couple areas that we would like to do the same thing, a full rebuild in those areas. We also had, in most of the residential, since they're always 2-lane streets, we go in there and we just calculate the center line miles of that. But, in some areas, for instance, this particular area has Central Avenue, which is a 4-lane, and Southeast 25th Street, which is, a 4-lane as well. That is also, part of an approved bike lane facility that this board has approved. And so because of those reasons, the cost is going to be required to go up a little bit to do some of the extensive repairs and to make up for kind of the miscalculation of additional roads that were within this residential area that are 4 lanes instead of 2 lanes. And so that's why, for those reasons, we're asking for an approval to recommend this budget revision.
This item requires a vote.
Hey Brock, this is Tony Carr from Ward 2. Just a quick question. I'm noting on the attached agenda that the pricing sheet shows a map of 89th to 81st between May and Hillcrest. So I think your project description is right. It's just the picture may be inaccurate.
Okay, my apologies about that. I didn't catch that. That's a nice catch. As I look here, the first thing I was kind of looking for is shields and some of the areas within that, and I don't see that, so I think you're correct. We'll get that corrected, and I'll get the picture right. But yeah, like you said, I think the description and the budget and everything is correct.
This is Sandino, and I have a question as well. So I noticed that we referenced Bike Walk OKC and the bike corridor that this one includes. I think if I got the right item, will this resurfacing in any way incorporate any other bike facilities that were outlined here, or is that to come in a later effort?
Because of this neighborhood did land within that, we will do the resurfacing. We'll obviously make sure and accommodate any of the inlet structures and everything. And so we will accommodate the resurfacing of that street, and we'll look to the bike facility to see what the design is on the striping, and we'll cover that cost of the striping when we restripe the project as well. And then the only cost for the bike facility will be any additional, delineators or, green bike boxes that may be, in conflict zones. But as far as the normal striping and the resurfacing, that will all be covered with this resurfacing project because it does fall within that. So anytime we have a resurfacing project and there's a bike facility in that, we reach to the bike facility and we see if there's any change in the striping. And if there is, we accommodate that change in striping as well.
Okay, so it sounds like you're saying you'll do whatever it can be incorporated during the resurfacing, but the bike facility itself will need to be completed subsequently.
Yes, if there's any additional special striping that's left, then we will leave that to them.
Thank you. Any other questions? This motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor say yay. All opposed, nay. Motion approved. Next is item 3A3.
Thank you all. Yeah, and this brings us to our agenda item 3A3, and this is going to be we've been promising trying to get an additional project or two for the residential resurfacing. Our arterial resurfacing has approved 112 projects, like I said, and it's brought us up to right around 97% approval. We would like to bring the residential approval up to that 96-97% approval, and that would kind of leave the total at that. And so what we did is we used the prioritization method that was approved by this board, and we ran the top 25 projects, and you'll see a list of those top 25. And so actually, out of that top 25, there are 4 projects that are unfunded. Item number 2, item number 8, item number 16, and 19. All the rest of the projects on this list are funded either through this program or our 2017 bond program. And so the ones that were unfunded that didn't have money, we sought those. And the number 2 item is, approximately $4.1 million. And so that really brings us right at the 96%. We don't have enough value to add number 2. I hope that with some give backs, and if some of the other projects run under the budget, then we should be able to get our another project added to this, which would be number 8. But at this time, since the number 2 item, the area bounded by North Prospect Avenue, North Martin Luther King Avenue, Northeast 50th Street, and Northeast 58th Street, brings us to that 96%. That would be the one that we would ask this board to recommend for approval.
This is Sandino again. I had a couple of questions. One question, I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So you're saying that that only the highlighted items are the ones that are unfunded. So the others are funded either in some previous allocation or I'm assuming in bond funding. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then or I should say the rank, second rank, the 8th rank, the 16th rank, and the 19th rank here. So those would be, so this is all we can afford to date, but we're saying that we would try and work down the list of these particular highlighted items.
Correct. I think in the past this board has asked for additional projects just to see how we did that. And so when we ran the top 25, those were the 4 projects that don't have funding. And if things go well and we're able to have some more give backs, then these would be potential projects as we move down through the
Great. So thank you. That's very helpful. So, and then I just have one other sort of kind of particular question about the area in question. And I think you'll note on the, the 5th ranked item here. So similar to my question, we have the area bounded by Prospect versus Kelly. Is there a particular reason why in that neighborhood we sort of generally stop at Prospect versus going to Kelly as far as the boundaries?
Some of the ways we split up the boundaries are you know, like the 2017 bond, it did the full mile. And what we've done in this advisory board, we've tried to break it down into quarter sections, quarter miles, you know, or another area that we do is we'll break it into that addition. And this particular addition is the Wildwood Highleys edition. And so the other one is in the same area, but it is a different edition. And so, you know, we have all the data on each one of the streets. Each street has a PCI, a pavement condition index, that's part of the prioritization method. It has the number of addresses in that edition, and it has, you know, the maintenance cost. And so as we break those up into the additions or quarter sections, then that's where we kind of get into those separations. And so we're just trying to narrow that down. That way we have more projects. Some of these additions are in different times. You might have an addition that is 10 years behind another addition. And so if we were to do the whole mile, you may have a lot of really new additions. And so it would bring the average PCI way up, and that project may not get on there. So if we see an addition that looks to be in serious need, then we'll break it up into that. And that's what we've done there.
Oh, so that helps. So that was going to be my next question, because I'm obviously familiar with the neighborhood, but not as familiar necessarily with the streets on either side of Prospect. So what it sounds like you're saying, and you broke up a little bit, but so I'm going to paraphrase, but what it sounds like you're saying is that this particular division has to do with the additions, which there are two different additions that are platted there. But also maybe this side from Prospect to Martin Luther King has a little more need than from Kelly to Prospect.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
This also requires a vote. This is 3A of 3A. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say yay. All opposed, nay. Motion passed. Next item is 3B, Street Enhancement Projects, status update.
Good morning. This is Lakeisha Dunbar, Transportation Program Planner from the Planning Department. Excuse me. I will be bringing the status update on item 3B, Street Enhancement Project status update. Excuse me. Just a reminder that 97% of the funding has been approved to date. And to go through each of the projects, just a brief status. The 39th Street area project as preliminary plans have been approved by council, and those were approved on March 17th. The Paseo and Walker projects, stakeholder meetings have been underway for the Paseo and Walker street enhancement projects, and staff is working with the engineer and stakeholders to evaluate options. We anticipate presenting the preliminary report to the CNEB council or board and council in early fall. Excuse me, just a moment. On the Portland project from 23rd to 36th Street, the preliminary report for Portland has gone through technical review, and the revisions will be made available for the director's review this week. We anticipate presenting the preliminary report to the CNEB board and to council in early summer. On the Northwest 10th and Vermont project, this is the intersection improvement project where we plan to put a mid-block traffic signal, pedestrian signal. The design is 65% complete and has been submitted to staff for review. The Auto Alley project is under consultant selection, interviews for consultant selection are being scheduled to be held within about a week or so from today. On the Northwest 10th and Rockwell project, preliminary design is expected by end of May. And the same for the Meridian project, that is Meridian from 16th to 30th Street. And we're also expecting preliminary designs by the end of this month. The Plaza area project is still in preliminary scope. And the Northeast 23rd Street project, Staff has met with council member and stakeholders. We met on April 22nd to discuss the next steps in scoping of the project. The project scope may expand due to new opportunities for funding. And lastly, on the street enhancement projects, the Stockyards area is still on hold in anticipation of the development of a small master plan that has been commissioned by the Alliance for Economic Development. So that concludes my status update on the street enhancement projects. Are there any questions at this time on the street enhancement projects?
One question. This is Sandino. Could you, do you have anything you could elaborate on as far as the additional funding or other funding opportunities for Northeast 23rd?
Well, we know that some funds have been set aside with the MAPS 4 project, with MAPS 4 for the Clara Looper corridor. We do not know at this time exactly how much of those funds will be allocated for the area and exactly what those funds will be spent on, but we do know that those funds are available. That is all that I have. I know that we are also trying to identify additional opportunities for funding to help with either resurfacing needs and just the general scope of the corridor. But that's all that I know that we have confirmed at this time for funding, additional funding for the corridor.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's very helpful. I know that as the merchant association and the neighborhood associations there have gotten organized, they have been very encouraged by the opportunity to do some things, but also wanting to see how far we can stretch the resources. So I mean, I'm encouraged to hear that we're looking at some additional opportunities. So thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any additional questions on the street enhancement projects?
This is Jeff Butler, Sandino. I just wanted to make one more comment since you mentioned that. We did have a conversation with some of those individuals and Councilwoman Nice, I believe it was early last week. And just so you're aware, typically we have, when we do a street enhancement project that involves a lot of landscaping, which they are very interested in, we need to have some kind of an organization that's willing to fund the ongoing maintenance. And that's something that we are working with them to set up. It's not an easy task to get support for that oftentimes. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, because we, as I said, we typically have either a bid or some kind of organization, group of businesses that through one mechanism or another are able to fund ongoing maintenance of landscaping. And without that, it would be difficult or impossible to be able to fund those or to build those and maintain them.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. That's very helpful as well. Appreciate that.
And Lakeisha, this is Tony Carfang. Can you just quickly refresh my memory, the scope or the plans for the Automobile Alley project?
Mr. Carfang, at this time, the scope of the project is pretty much consistent of looking at sidewalk improvements, pedestrian improvements along the corridor from, I believe, Park Place up to about 13th Street. And that's about all that is currently included in the scope of the project. Maybe some potential for some landscaping, and that's dependent upon kind of the similar conversation that Jeff just had about as to what the district would like to see happen along the corridor.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any additional questions about the street enhancement projects at this time? Okay,
Lakeisha, this is Jeff. Lakeisha, this is Jeff again. Is my understanding correct that we also have recently identified some resurfacing funds for Automobile Alley?
I believe so. I have to defer to the Public Works Department. I believe they've been assisting us with opportunities for resurfacing. And I'm sorry.
Okay,
they're
maybe they
also-
can confirm that. My
Yes.
understanding was that that would be combined with the street enhancement, the already existing, and then they would be done at once.
Jeff, that is correct. In the last list of arterials that the board approved and recommended to council, Broadway from McGee to 10th Street was included as an arterial street resurfacing project. And we will endeavor to coordinate those two projects together.
Thank you for that reminder, Jeff. Okay, last time I'll ask one more time, any more questions on the street enhancement projects before we move on to item 3C sidewalks? Okay, hearing none, then I'll be moving on to item 3C sidewalk project status. This is just a very brief status here. Just a reminder that 96% of the funding has been approved to date. And that includes the categories for downtown area. Downtown area sidewalks is about 15% complete in design. We are still kind of identifying, prioritizing the exact segments for the downtown area. And a reminder, the downtown area is pretty much within the boundaries of south of 13th Street, east of Western. The southern border is about Reno, and the eastern border is about I-235. We're working with a consultant there, and he's helping to identify primary locations for, we've identified the primary locations, but he's now scoping those locations out and confirming how much can be completed within the budget of, I think we have $1.2 million for that. For the parks area, it's the parks projects are about 75% complete. And that's basically 3 project areas out of 4 that are complete at this time. For the pedestrian priority areas, about 50% of those projects are complete, and that's about 4 out of 8 project areas. For the transit area, it's about 50% complete, and that's phase, we're kind of calling that phase 1 is 100% complete, and they've began phase 2. And that's just a variety of areas throughout the city that are accommodating transit stops. And lastly, for sidewalks, school areas are about 80% complete, and that's about 4 out of 5 school area projects are complete at this time. So that completes the status update for the sidewalk projects. Are there any questions on our sidewalk projects? Okay. Hearing no questions on our sidewalk projects, I'll be moving on to item 3D, bicycle facilities. Status update 3D1, status update. Here, a reminder, we have 66% of the funding has been approved to date, leaving about $5.67 million available to be approved for projects. And for our status, we have under design, 100% design complete, and in final staff review is the General Pershing Phase 1 project. The design is pretty much complete, and that's the General Pershing Phase 1 project is from May Avenue to Pennsylvania Avenue. We'll be coordinating with the consultant on preparations for construction to begin soon. Projects that are about 90% design complete and in staff review are the Lottie Avenue project, the Spring Lake Avenue project, the Linwood Avenue project, and a General Pershing Phase 2 project, which is basically Main Street from Pennsylvania all the way to Lee Street. And for that project, we are coordinating the design decisions with stakeholders. We are particularly looking at on-street parking considerations through this corridor. And so that one is under, all of these projects are under 90% design complete and staff review. Project that is about 50% design complete is the Southeast Southwest 25th Street project. Designs there about 50% complete, and there we're also needing to coordinate with stakeholders on on-street parking considerations. And then the following projects, we are pretty much either at a standstill or kind of on hold or 0% design. And that is the Villa Central project, and it is on hold to coordinate with the Stockyards projects. The Wilshire project is on hold right now. We're still redefining the scope. We are trying to coordinate that project so that with the Northeast Expressway, Northwest Expressway bridge, the pedestrian bridge that's being designed for crossing over Northwest Expressway, we're wanting to coordinate the Wilshire project so that a trail will be in connection with that bridge. The 59th Street project is currently on hold right now. I do want to report, I can't remember if I reported last month, but we have been informed by ACOG that the project has been selected to receive STBG funding, Surface Transportation Block Grant funding. And that's a great thing. It's 80%, 20% match funding. And so we've been able to revise the scope of that project. And that project will be going through the process of being approved by the ACOG board, excuse me, and then getting adopted into the state transportation improvement program over the summer. And then those funds will be available come October of this year. So I'll be bringing back more information on that project as it develops over the summer. The Independence and Grand project is currently on hold again in coordination with the BRT project. And lastly, the Villa North Project 2 has been on hold with coordination for the BRT project. And the next item on the agenda is to discuss the budget adjustment for this particular project. So that completes my report on the bicycle facilities status update. Are there any questions at this time on the bicycle facilities projects?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, Hal.
This Hal McKnight on the general Pershing phase 1. You said that's getting ready to start, but has not been completed yet. Is that correct?
With the designs are 100% complete, and and the consultant is coordinating with Public Works staff on the preparations for construction. I believe this project will be done by on-call contract, our unit price contract. And so I don't have a status on exactly when construction will begin, but we are in the process of coordinating that.
Lakeisha, is that a tier 1 segment?
Yes, it is.
Phase 1. Thank you.
Hold on. Lakeisha, this is Tony Carr. Thanks again for the status update. Real quickly, I think in December, we had a working meeting to discuss the general Pershing design. I don't remember seeing the final decision for that. So can you briefly tell us what sort of tier or design made it into the overall plan?
So for the phase 1, which again is from May to Penn, it is a tier 1 facility. So we have been able to accommodate buffered bike lanes for the full length limits of that segment of the project. But that, again, that's just a general Pershing phase 1 from May to Penn. So, and we're still working on the designs for the general Pershing phase 2, which is from Pennsylvania to Lee. A final decision has not been made on that. We are coordinating with the council member for that area due to there are some parking restrictions or parking accommodations along the corridor, and we are coordinating with the council member And we'll have plans to try to reach out to some key stakeholders in coordinating parking considerations for that segment. So we don't have a final design yet on phase 2.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that second phase is a lot more complicated, but I appreciate the update on phase 1.
You're welcome. Are there any more questions on bicycle facility status update? Okay, hearing none. Not sure why I get hoarse when I talk to you all. I don't get hoarse when I talk to anyone else. So please excuse my voice. If there are no more questions on item 3D bicycle facility status update, I would like to move to item 3D 2A. Recommend budget revision for the Villa North Bicycle Infrastructure Project. And for this one, I got a little daring here. I thought we could use a couple of visuals to help us be reminded of this project. And so as those visuals are being brought up, a reminder here, this is the Villa North project, and we'll, item 3D2, we can go on to the next slide, please. The Villa North project, this image here is turned sideways for the length of it just to fit graphically. And this is slide number 2 in your handouts. The Villa North project extends basically from Northwest 10th Street all the way up north to Northwest 63rd Street, pretty much along Villa Avenue and along portions of it along Young's Avenue. Next slide, please. I just wanted to remind you that we did modify this route just a little bit. It did jog over onto Venice Avenue, and we have decided to keep the corridor to go along Villa Avenue straight through. And most of that portion from 23rd Street up to 36th Street, we are able to do a tier 1 facility. The next slide, please. The north, I just want to remind you here, this project had been put on hold for a minute because of the coordination with the Northwest BRT alignment. It crosses the BRT alignment at the Northwest Expressway, and you can see here the purple line crossing the blue line. And so this is key here. We get some, what this means to the project is that portions of the funds will be allocated will be considered as match for the Northwest BRT project. So it is very key that this project moves forward. And what that means is the funds for the construction of the Villa North project have been taken into consideration for match when the project was submitted for the build grant for when the Northwest BRT project was submitted for funding. The city had to identify projects that would be considered match for the overall grant funds. Because this project crosses the corridor, it can be counted as a project that can be coordinated with the BRT project. At the time, the project was approved for $300,000 from the board for construction. Next slide, please. Just a reminder that at this time to date, of the $12 million allocated for bicycle for infrastructure, the board has approved 66% of that, leaving $5.67 million available. And so with this presentation today, next slide, please. I'm bringing forth to you a request to revise the budget. And so in coordination with our consultant, the consultant who's been working on the design of this project, It has been determined that the budget does need to be revised. This is due to the cost, once we've received the cost for the unit price contract for paint, for pavement markings, and for delineators, we've identified that the cost has gone up substantially. The new infrastructure cost is a total of $509,000. That includes the original $300,000 that was allocated for the project. And for new roadway estimate, the project estimate is at $412,840. And I'll have a slide for you in just a second on the pavement conditions and why this new roadway estimate is much higher. Next slide, please. So the consultant has gone out and they've reviewed this project, and in this slide, on slide number 7 of your packets, there are some images of the pavement conditions along the corridor. And so it's been determined that a full resurfacing would need to be, particularly along the segments between 10th Street to about 16th Street along Villa Avenue. And so where with other projects, we would normally be able to do some patching. In this case, we would have to do a full resurfacing for the project, hence the addition for the new roadway estimate of up to $412,000. So at this time, next slide, please. We are asking for a budget revision of the Villa North project for a total of, sorry, the slide is incorrect here. Oh, sorry, looking at 2 slides here. For a total budget of $922,000 for the Villa North project. Again, just a reminder, what has been approved to date has been 66% of the $12 million budget. And we have $5.675 million available to approve for funding towards this project. So the total amount that we are asking, a total additional budget we are asking for is $622,000 to add to the $300,000, making it a total construction cost of $922,000 for the Villa North project. Are there any questions?
This is Tony Carr, Fang. Just one very appreciative comment. I live a few blocks from that 30th and Villa element. And despite Cleveland and Shepherd being residential, the fact that 23rd to 30th is a pretty perfect quarter mile means drag racing is a pretty common occurrence. And so having the route go down Villa with tier 1 infrastructure is a great way to try to quell that street racing. So I appreciate this change.
Thank you, Mr. Carfang. Are there any other questions about what I've presented at this time on the Villa North project? So if there are no questions, we are requesting action for approval of the request to revise the budget from $300,000 to a total of $922,000 for the Villa North project.
If there are no other questions, then we need a motion and a second, which has been done. And
Chairman, no, this is the previous. Give me just a second here. It didn't update. Okay, you can proceed now.
okay, this has been moved and seconded. All in favor say yay. All opposed say nay. Motion is approved. Thank you.
Chairman, I'm sorry. We're waiting on a vote from Mr. Dixon. It appears we may have lost him off the line, so we'll record him as absent for this vote.
Okay. I know earlier he said he was in a rainstorm, so I'm sure he's having trouble there maybe. All right. Then I think the next item would be E, trails.
All right, thank you all for your approval of the item 3D2A. I will also give a very, very brief status on the item 3E trails status update. On the Lake Overholser project, it is substantially complete and staff is working on a punch list for this project. For the Hefner to Overholser Trail project, it is 90% complete. And for the South Oklahoma River Trail project, it is 60% complete. And that's all I have on the status of the trails. If you have any specific questions related to these, I may have to defer to Public Works staff to assist with any questions here. If there are no questions, that
I'm
completes.
sorry. This is Hal McKnight. I have a question on the status of the repair on the West River Trail where it washed out by the river. I know that MAPS 3 was in charge of that. Eric, do you have an update?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Eric Winger, Public Works Director for Oklahoma City. So we had just updated with David Todd, who's the MAPS Program Manager. The MAPS office is leading the repairs and the work that's pending on the West River Trail. They do have a consultant that's evaluating all the additional design options. So the design is underway. They're expecting to finish that hopefully in the next month or so. Anticipation is that it can be in construction for the repairs this summer, but I don't have a definitive timeline, but we should know more once the consultant finishes up the design.
I see. A follow-up question is the connection between the Katy Trail and the river, the status upon that connection?
So I don't have an update that I can give today unless there's maybe some other staff that's online right now that could.
My apologies, I do not have a status on that either.
So Mr. Chairman, let us get you an update with that question today and we'll get that sent to you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Next would be F, implementation plan.
As presented by Brock and Lakeisha today and recommended by the board, the May 2020 implementation plan would include one arterial resurfacing budget revision, one residential resurfacing budget revision, one new residential resurfacing project, and one bicycle infrastructure budget revision. The total estimated cost for the May implementation plan would be $5,876,967. We ask that you receive the plan and recommend adoption by the City Council.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Next is financial report.
Good morning. This is Erica Vanderslipen with the Finance Department. I'd like to go over the financial summary as of April 24th, 2020. For the month of April, we had sales tax collections of 8.7 million, which exceeded the projections for the month that were, it's actually slightly under, I apologize, under the estimated collections for the month of April that were estimated at 8.9. Total to date revenues continue to be above the total to date expectations. We have total to date revenues of 254,135,000, which exceeds the projections by 6.2%. Going down to the expenditures, we have current allocations of 199.8 million, with expenditures for the month at 5.1 million and total to date expenditures at 73.7 million. And as you know, the sales tax, this particular collections ended March 31st. And we will continue to see collections come in, and we'll have a better idea of final amounts over projections in the month of June. And that is all. If there's any questions.
Erica, this is Tony Carr, Fang. So you mentioned that the April 2020 revenues, or latest information as of April 24th, since KNEAB collections ended March 31st, how much of that 8.7 is part of the KNEAB budget versus the MAPS 4 budget?
All of that is part of the KNEAB budget because collections are phased in. So all of that amount is part of this budget.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Erica, this is Hal McKnight. Thank you for that information. If I understand you correct, we know that we have an amount over the projection, but we do not have the updated information as of the 31st of March on how much the amount is over projected, but we would theoretically next month have that amount. Is that correct?
Well, it'll be like in June. What happens is after the collections or after the tax is finished, we continue to have collections and adjustments, and particularly with this COVID state of emergency, we don't know how that affected remittance from some of the retail in different areas. And so I kind of expect to see a lot more corrections or late submissions. So it's going to be a little bit further into June, if not more further.
So we probably would not have that information until our July meeting.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This item requires a vote of approval of this. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Oops, sorry. I'm sorry, I lost my screen there. All in favor say aye. Lost my button, so I'll say aye verbally. All opposed say nay. That motion passes. Thank you. Next item, number 5, is Director's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Eric Winger again. I think as we update this month, and I think to follow up on the financial discussion that we were just having, we're starting to track the next meeting potentially in June as a potential workshop. We don't know that for certain yet, but we're starting to make those plans to where we can begin those discussions of excess collections with the advisory board. But obviously, we continue to monitor the totals so that we don't prematurely start that conversation, but definitely something that we're looking to start soon. So if we're able to do so in June, we may begin that discussion. If we have to wait until July, we may postpone that until that July meeting. But just know that that's something that we very much know is of an interest of the board, and something that we want to go ahead and start that conversation. Really, other than that, we are in an active construction season. Work is continuing to move forward. Even with the COVID emergency, our contractors have continued to work throughout the spring. And so we continue to see lots of progress in Oklahoma City on roads. But obviously, as we prepare for more bike, sidewalk, trail, and streetscape, each of those projects will continue to proceed this summer. So with that, I don't have other updates. I know Jeff Butler is also online, and he may have some items he might add.
Yeah, this is Jeff. I don't have anything further unless there are questions from the board.
Any questions? Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jeff. Next item is item 6, comments. 6A, comments from the board.
This is Sandino. I had a couple of comments that maybe actually will morph into questions for the staff. But one of the things I was curious about, and Mr. Winger spoke to, and maybe we're doing all we can, but I was just curious, particularly with the nature of the funding and some of the contractors and things that are lined up for some of these projects, whether there was any effort or whether we're able to sort of marshal any effort to maybe fast track or accelerate any other projects that have been approved, given the lighter loads on the streets and things like that. It just seems like a great opportunity to do anything that we can. And I know that this won't last forever, but it might be a silver lining for been able to get some projects done. I guess I'm maybe particularly kind of interested in the projects around the downtown area, and if there's an opportunity to do any of that.
Yeah, that's a great question. This is Eric Winger again. So we actually have maximized a lot of the potential that our current local construction force has already undertaken. Obviously, with the Better Streets, with the active bond program, we have contracts with every paving contractor that wishes to do work with the city of Oklahoma City, both in streets and on sidewalks. And we continue to write work orders actively. As they finish work, they're getting immediate work. We did find some opportunities to accelerate a couple of projects. We found where we were able to, because of reduced traffic, completely close down certain streets with full closures and not have to build detours. So we did take advantage of that on a few projects, but that's not been something that we've been able to just do citywide. And we continue to work closely with the contractors to expedite as much as possible. And it has helped with some of the lighter traffic on streets, allow them to slightly move a little faster, but not just huge improvements. Only because they're already so busy with the work that's underway in Oklahoma City.
Okay, appreciate that. Thanks. I figured you guys were probably already on top of it, but I thought I'd make sense to ask anyway. One other question, and this has to do with I think one of the items that we approved with the budgets, and I do know that a lot of the budget changes are being driven by some revelations in what the actual costs are to get the bicycle facilities to where we would like them to be. However, I think this is there's a few times when I've heard it mentioned that that projects in the Better Street Safer Cities program are being used as match for the BRT, and just sort of thinking ahead to some of the opportunity to deliberate on some of the projects that we've seen, some of the funding and paving and other facilities along Classen, Villa, and some of these other streets. I think once we get up to Northwest Expressway, I know that we're waiting on, that we're trying to coordinate quite a few things that could be used as match in regards to some of the trails as well. So I was curious, can we get a presentation by I'm not sure if it's Embark or wherever it is that oversees the BRT program. I try and pay attention and be as civically engaged as I can. And I've just heard I've heard and sort of felt like I've seen a lot of different things in regards to what is happening with the BRT. And I think particularly if we're if these projects are being used as match, it makes me feel like we're at least enough of a partner in the process where it would be nice to see what the plan is, so we could have a feel for how that activity is going to be coordinated or what the anticipated sort of opportunities are there.
And this is Lakeisha Dunbar. I believe, yes, we can try to coordinate a presentation. And what I understand is you just like a presentation on what the BRT project is and kind of the scope of it, and then how it interacts and the coordination of the sales tax projects that are being considered as match. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, you got it right. And
Okay.
I'm happy we're getting towards the end of the meeting so you can get your voice back.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we can coordinate a presentation on the BRT.
So this is Tony Carr, Fang. I might actually go a step further than Sandino. And if the Better Streets, Safer City organization is providing some of the money, then I feel like we are stakeholders as part of the ultimate design, as opposed to just passively seeing what the design is. Does that make sense?
Yes, and so I'm sorry I was a little kind of discombobulated when I was giving that presentation on how the match works, but just want to make sure that it's yeah, that yes, I think we can discuss that further.
Tony, this is Eric Winger. I think to elaborate a little bit on that. So the Better Streets projects are proceeding as approved by the board and the council, and as designed by the board and the council, but we have found some overlap with some of the Better Streets projects that overlap the BRT. So we're able to make them as eligible matches. So it's not different monies or monies outside of what the board or the city council has already seen. We're simply just leveraging the fact that they're in the same area at several locations, but we'll include that as a part of that presentation for you.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
This is Hal McKnight. I think in this difficult time, certain good things have been coming out of it. The sidewalks, the trails have a tremendous facilities, and they're certainly serving our city extremely well. I continue, though, to hear a lot of negatives on the West River Trail, the problem where it got washed out. That's been about a year ago, and it's alarming to me that they still haven't had the consultants come up with a plan to repair this, much less moving forward to trying to get that trail reopened. It's a vital link to this city, and I would love to discuss at a future point in our meetings of the bicycle facilities, trails, and sidewalks. When Mother Nature does destroy them, how the system can work faster to get them repaired. Thank you.
Absolutely, Hal. This is Eric Winger again. So I think the West River Trail, the embankment that has basically slid, that we had a huge erosion that took that trail, makes it one of the more complicated projects we faced on the restoration. About a month and a half ago, we had a portion of the trail near the Brum Dam undermined completely near one of the pedestrian bridges. But a much, much smaller project, and one that we were able to have one of our city contractors address almost in the same week. And so it really just depends on the complexity of what the damage has occurred. So on the north side of the river near the Brum Dam, we were able to make that repair, a complete approach replacement to one of the pedestrian bridges in a week or less. The West River Trail, I mean, we're dealing with the mighty Oklahoma River. And so it's just a lot more complicated. It's a lot more resource taxing. And it's going to be a huge undertaking once we get that final design in place. But I just wanted to there's kind of two different scales of project, and we're absolutely committed to trying to keep the trail in top condition when we can.
I understand. I think anytime you build a sidewalk, a trail, a bike facility in a riparian area next to a river, especially on the sandy loam soil that's being used, there are going to be future problems. And it seems like the simple solution is to reroute that West River Trail back to the east to stay away from the river, because that's going to repeat itself. I know last year was a big year for the 100-year flood situation, but Mother Nature can certainly do the same thing again at any time. It just seems to me that these, for moving forward in the future, that when we do have problems as we build more trails, sidewalks, and bike facilities, there needs to be an aggressive plan in place to move quicker to repair a problem when it occurs.
We'll do our best. We appreciate the comments.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments from board members?
This is Tony Carfang. Just a couple of quick things. So May is National Bike Month, and it's been really awesome to see that in the face of quieter streets, so many people have been out walking and biking a whole lot more. And I've heard from several bike shops that sales are through the roof right now. So I'm pretty excited to see how the infrastructure that we're approving will help encourage that movement, and people who are new to biking now will enjoy it just as much in a post-COVID world because of our infrastructure.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? Thank you. Next would be 6B, comments from staff.
No further comments, Chairman.
Thank you. Next would be 6C, comments from citizens. Staff, is there anyone signed up to speak?
No, Chairman, there has been no one signed up to speak.
Thank you, Mickey. All right, well, that pretty well concludes our meeting. I would certainly like to thank all the work and time from city staff and from board members. Please, everyone, continue to be safe, and this too challenge will pass. Thank you. We are adjourned.